surprise anybody who will listen to the ranking show. The only retread I'm throwing up here, it's Darren Waller. I don't think looking at ADP, there's anybody at a better bet at tight end to be the overall tight end one that's not Travis Kelce that's going this low. So the guy's going above Darren Waller right now, who he has skyrocketed up underdog ADP recently. If you haven't noticed, he went from tight end 7 to tight end 4. When I originally did this write up, he was still at tight end 7. He's now tight end 4. Still, the guy's going above him. One, TJ Hawkinson. I think Darren Waller is more talented than TJ Hawkinson. I don't think we disagree on the talent in Darren Waller. I think we disagree on the availability of Darren Waller.
Well, and I'm just this is really people know my rebuttal to this and why I took the under. I didn't really give the reason on this show, but the Ranks Debate show is just he's played 20 games in the last 2 years. He's going into his age 31 season. Will that same guy come back this year? Hopefully so, but I think the jury is still out. Now, it sounds like based on Giants camp, he's playing like a different sport than everybody else there. So who knows?
Well, and talked about this on the Ranks Debate episode. The number of players to draw a 25% target share in the Giants offense last year were pretty bad players. And I am confident in saying Darren Waller is a better receiver than any receiver on the Giants roster. That one's one I'm willing to go with. We saw it in his one preseason game. He played with the starters where he had 50% of the team's targets when he was on the field. I mean, this guy is going to be a target machine. I'm a big believer. Brian Dabble last year made guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton these late round targets, all because he made them look productive and he orchestrated a productive offense. My opinion, Mark Andrews is going to see a significant decline in target share. I think Darren Waller should be above him. TJ Hawkinson's another guy I'm just not buying into. But just to hit like with some of the stats on how good Waller is when he's healthy, he runs 32 routes per game and gets 7.6 targets per game. So he's averaging an insane target share on routes run, and he averages 5 receptions and 62.5 yards per game. This puts him in the top 4 of all tight ends. The only downfall was with the Raiders. He was unable to really turn a lot of these targets into touchdowns. I think it's a bigger indictment to the Raiders offense. He's the best red zone weapon other than Saquon Barkley on this team, and maybe a Daniel Jones QB run.
I was going to say maybe a Daniel Jones QB run, yep.
But the last reason he's a my guy is kind of throwing some game theory into drafting your players. I am staunchly against mid-round tight ends, and this is a mid-round tight end pick.
Yep.
Because two things are going on here. One, if you draft Darren Waller and he plays 17 games, I'm pretty confident saying he'll be a top 4 tight end regardless and might press for top 2 or 1. But if Darren Waller gets injured, you're not losing a lot of replacement value, because you can get another guy in the later rounds who's going to do just as good for you. So if you draft Darren Waller in the 8th round and then you bring it back in the 15th round with Irv Smith, I think you're going to end up with a pretty good roster.
You might end up with 2 guys who are out by week 3.
Maybe not Irv Smith. Let me change it. Maybe not Irv Smith. Like, let's do like a Jake Ferguson or Gerald Everett or Juwan Johnson late in these drafts.
Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, any of those guys. Then I think you have a pretty confident roster build where every week he's healthy. You start Darren Waller and you know he can score you 20 points a game. And if he is hurt, you have a guy whose replacement value is going to be detrimental to your roster. I think drafting some of these other mid-round tight ends is absolutely terrible for your team because even their upside cases is like tight end 7.
See, like we should have had this ranks debate at the time, or just this straight up debate. Probably don't have time to do it now because we need to get to the rest of our guys. But like, I would rather take Kyle Pitts in that similar neighborhood, but I'm not like I have Waller at tight end 8, like right there with Pat Freiermuth. I could easily be talked into swapping those 2 guys. Like it's pretty close for me on those 2. As long as you're taking them as like your tight end 7, tight end 8, that's fine. It's when you get up to that tight end 4, like in underdog, if that price starts seeping into home leagues, then I will feel a lot less good about it because I think the risk is baked in at tight end 7 or 8. I don't think the risk is baked in like it should be at that higher rank. And I'm sure you'd even agree with that to some extent, although I know you have him ranked higher than tight end 7.
Yeah, and right now on underdog, he's going 60th overall, which puts him in the same range as players like Deontay Johnson, huge fan of. Mm-hmm. Alexander Madison, I'd take over him. George Kittle, I would take over him. Dameon Pierce, I would take Waller over Kittle and Pierce. Trevor Lawrence, George Pickens, those are all guys I would still take over.
Pickens is the first one that you said that I would take Waller over.
But him becoming, and again, since last I looked at ADP, this has been a jump over the last 4 days. Him being all the way up in the 5th round makes him much richer. And I think it's part because his preseason performance probably leads a lot of people to believe what I'm saying, that if he does play, he's going to be a target machine. It definitely pick 60 is getting a little rich for me, but I still like if you put him and Mark Andrews in a room together at pick 30 and you told me to pick, I might take Darren Waller no matter what.
Man, I don't know about that, but I think we all know my thoughts. And now your
LVP last year, Mark Andrews.
Darren
Waller couldn't lose you leagues because you couldn't start him because he was injured. All right.
At least he does that for you. He just goes away instead of being bad on the field, I guess.
Hey, there is something to be said about that.